Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce Member Spotlight. My name is Rob Schlachter, and I am really excited about today's broadcast because it's very relevant. This is about financial planning tips in uncertain times, and I would think that there are no more uncertain times than what we're facing right now. So we have some guests slated today that are subject matter experts in the field, and I am very pleased to welcome our first guest, Simon Ellis. Simon, welcome from Bright Futures Financial. And we're absolutely thrilled to have you because, listen, we all need a little bit of counsel, reassurance. So why don't we start out, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and how you got started into financial planning in general.
Of course. Thank you very much for having us here. It's good to be on scene, and you're right. There's no shortage of things we could talk about right now. I'm with Bright Future Financial. That's where we're a small financial planning practice. We're out of Leominster, Mass. I'm a Marlborough resident. That's what brings me here. That's why I'm a member of this chamber. Mm-hmm. I love my community and want to give. And as far as my background, I started out in financial services 1996. So that's 26 years ago. So that's quite some time to be around. I've seen a few cycles. We're in a cycle. Mm-hmm. I started with Mass Financial Services, a mutual fund company downtown in Boston. I spent some time at Fidelity Investments. So my early career was in the mutual fund business. From there, I gravitated into 401k planning. I was part of a team that headed up a couple $1 billion of assets there that we had to manage on a day-to-day basis for other employers. And then I moved into the financial planning space in a true sense in 2007 with a Fortune 100 company. I was recruited into that, became a partner within that company, was a successful partner for 10 years, recruiting and developing other advisors, before finally saying, let's get back to the crux of things. What's it all about? And that's being able to put people in a better position and help them achieve their goals. And so that's the present role, myself and my colleague Mike Davis over at Bright Future Financial.
Great. So clearly we are in, I think it's safe to say, tumultuous times with turmoil. So from your perspective, a philosophy on both from a small business perspective as well as people who may or may not have ever dealt with financial planners. Talk a little bit about your philosophy and what you recommend to both business and consumer.
I think a couple of things just reflexively is you have to plan. There's got to be a plan. Things don't just happen on their own. And so if you're not working with a planner, you probably should. There's concern out there, be it political, supply chain, interest rates. Every time you turn on the TV, you got a notion that the sky's falling. And it's not to make light of it. There's a lot of real, genuine issues out there right now. But with planning and working with the right advisor, that'll make all the difference in the world. We got to remember, these things are cyclical. They'll come and they'll go. This too shall pass.
Our memories are short,
right? And we've been on a good run for 10 years prior to these issues as of the last couple of years, right? So it's likely to stick around for a while, but it will pass. And interestingly enough, you mentioned in one of the questions there, even the political environment. I advised a client years back, and this was another presidential cycle, probably 12 years ago, and their focus was on who's coming and going, like that really matters. Mm-hmm. And my answer to that was, they're all going to come and go. It's what's your plan? When this person's in office, that person's in office, how do you get around these things so it's advantageous? And the only way you're going to do that is working with a planner.
Right. So let's dive in a little bit on that. As far as your practice is concerned, what makes yours unique? And what would you say the biggest misconception of having a financial planner is? Almost exclusively, we deal with small business owners and the individuals connected to those businesses. That's our market. These are the people we deal with. That's also the lifeblood of our community. And we live and work in our community. So we understand what people's needs are, and we understand how to put them in a better position. I think some of the misconceptions are, how much does it cost to have an advisor? What kind of advice can they really give me? Who do I trust? These are basic things that would prevent somebody from reaching out. Most of our business is referral business, so it comes in as trusted business, usually from other advisors. But I think it's also important to note that
how much does it cost to not get the advice? Is really what I would answer with that. So, people are concerned about costs and whether or not they can afford to pay for it, or does it even apply to them in some cases? Most individuals walking around don't have a financial advisor or a financial planner. They think that's for people with a lot of money. Well, my thing to you is, if that's the case, everybody's trying to get ahead. Everybody's got similar needs. The roadmap to how you get there could be very different, but you've got to be able to plot it out and plan it.
Right. So what would your philosophy be for people who are tuning in, whether they own business or they're considering selecting or getting engaged with a financial planner? What's the philosophy on how you should make that selection?
Well, I think there's first and foremost, most people are looking for qualification. They're looking for time served. They're looking for experience. Sometimes they're looking for name brand. I think the first thing that you ought to be looking for when you're talking to somebody who's a potential advisor for you is, do they listen? That gets to the root cause of every problem. You've got to be able to listen to understand what the problem is. There's a lot of people out there that have quick solutions to things, and you've also got to be willing to spend the time on things. Get into a real conversation, spend the time, drill deep. It's got to be worth it to you too, right? And the only way you're going to get there is good questions and a lot of listening. From my perspective, I need to know everything in order to put a good plan together and give a recommendation, not just piecemeal bits of this and a little bit of that. It's like, what's the big picture? How do we get there? And fundamentally, why is that important to you? Mm-hmm. You feel differently about it than other people might feel about it, even though at first blush it might appear similar. Right. So I think some of that, and what else might I tell you? Also to set expectations for people. Where are you both coming in at? Ask questions about how much do things cost? What are different service models if you have service models? What's the scope and depth of the problem? Do you need a full-on financial plan as a working, living document? Or do you just need certain areas addressed?
Right, and you would offer free consultations for folks who are interested.
That's right. Accurate? I mean, it's a screening process, ultimately for both parties, right? You want to make sure our business is a relationship business, and we want to make sure that we're not just there serving transactional needs. When we're putting a plan together for somebody, we're there for the long haul. And things will change, and you will need to make adjustments to your plan. Well, we're in a position to be able to do that because we already know you. We have a relationship with you, and that's going to lend itself to success overall in the long term. Like I say, things come and go, right? Right. Your plan should be a living, breathing document, not necessarily something you did once and then set it and forget it. Right. That's never going to work.
Okay. So you did mention earlier that you moved into Marlboro, you want to get involved in the community, and then recently you decided to join the Regional Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. What was your rationale for that, and how do you plan on leveraging the chamber?
Well, I mean, the chamber itself, right? It's all business owners. These are essentially my constituents, my potential clients. They're also people I can help in other ways. I love networking. I love being around other business owners. I like to hear other perspective. You're going to learn and grow from other perspective, not just living in your own bubble. But it's also, it ties back to the community. It really does for me. Small business is the lifeblood of the community. There's more small business in the United States driving everything than there are big corporations. Most people work for small business. If we step out of this building and walk around town, there's 1,000 small businesses, each with employees, each with families. If we're doing well there in that space, and I can impact that positively in terms of just economic development and growth, the whole community does well.
Gotcha. Well, we really appreciate your perspective on that and joining us today. And, obviously I think it gives some people a little bit of confidence and hope. I guess we'll leave it. Any hot tips you have for us?
I'd say buy low. People right now are jittery naturally.
Yes.
That's where people are prone to making mistakes. If you're making a decision based on emotion, you really ought to have somebody that can separate fact from emotion and make logical decisions. Every study shows it, that if you're acting on emotion when it comes to financial stuff, you're most likely going to mess it up.
Right. Good.
Don't do it. Buy low, sell high, not the other way around.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you joining us this morning. It was a pleasure having you.
Likewise.